why you'll never please everyone, and why you shouldn't even try. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where we explore timeless truths for a more conscious life. Today's video dives into a liberating truth. You were never meant to please everyone, and trying to do so only distances you from your authentic self. Jung understood that constantly chasing approval is a sure path to inner conflict, not peace. If you've ever felt drained trying to be what others want you to be, this message is your wake-up call. Let's break free from the illusion that being liked equals being fulfilled. Are you ready to honor your truth instead of performing for acceptance? Comment below. I choose authenticity. And let us know how this resonates with your journey. 1. People-pleasing is not kindness, it's self-abandonment. People-pleasing is not an act of kindness. It is a subtle and dangerous form of self-abandonment. Many of us were conditioned early in life to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, and to seek approval as a way to stay safe, loved, or accepted. But what begins as a survival strategy quietly becomes a cage. You say yes when you mean no, smile when you feel uncomfortable, and shrink yourself to make others feel more at ease. In doing so, you trade authenticity for acceptance and slowly begin to disappear. You start to believe that being good means being liked. But Carl Jung, through his spiritual wisdom, warned us, goodness without wholeness becomes a mask. And that mask, if worn too long, becomes your identity. Saying yes doesn't make you noble. It makes you invisible. It makes you tired, drained, and resentful. Because every time you betray yourself to gain approval, you teach the world that your needs are optional, your time is flexible, and your silence is consent. What most people don't realize is that people-pleasing is not rooted in love, it's rooted in fear. The fear of being disliked, the fear of rejection, the fear of confrontation. Jung called this a form of shadow behavior, a hidden part of the psyche that pretends to be virtuous while secretly feeding on insecurity. And when you live from that shadow, you may appear cooperative, but deep down, you're abandoning your soul. This habit creates an emotional imbalance. You might find yourself overcommitting, avoiding conflict at all costs, or constantly second-guessing your choices. You become hyper-attuned to others' emotions, but disconnected from your own. You live your life as a reflection of what others want you to be, not as an expression of who you really are. Spiritual wisdom reminds us that the soul was never meant to be passive. It was meant to be powerful, clear, and honest. There comes a point where your nervous system starts to rebel. You wake up anxious, not because of your schedule, but because you filled your life with obligations that drain you. Your body feels tired, not from activity, but from carrying the weight of unspoken truths. You try to rest, but rest doesn't reach the kind of exhaustion that comes from living out of alignment with your core. This is not just emotional fatigue, it's spiritual fatigue. When you stop trying to please everyone, you begin to reclaim your boundaries. You start recognizing that not every request deserves your yes. You realize that your peace is too expensive to be sacrificed for temporary harmony. You understand that disappointment is not something to fear. It's often a sign that you're finally choosing yourself. And when you do, the right people remain, the wrong ones fall away, and your energy starts to return to you. Carl Jung spoke often about individuation, the journey of becoming whole. That path cannot be walked while you're busy managing how others see you. True spiritual wisdom calls you to reclaim the lost parts of yourself. The assertive part, the honest part, the part that knows your worth and speaks your truth even when your voice shakes. Wholeness requires that you stop apologizing for existing. It demands that you stop bending to fit into places your soul has outgrown. Let others misunderstand you. Let them be uncomfortable with your boundaries. Let them talk. Because in the end, you're not here to be agreeable. You're here to be real. And the price of people-pleasing is far too high. It costs you your identity, your energy, your voice, and your purpose. When you begin to honor your truth, you stop living on the terms of others and start living on the terms of your soul. Have you ever caught yourself saying yes just to keep the peace, even when your soul whispered no? If you've broken free from that cycle, share your story in the comments to inspire others. If you're just starting to reclaim your voice, comment "No more self-abandonment" to mark the beginning of your healing journey. Let's grow together. 2. The persona is a mask that becomes a prison. Carl Jung called it the persona, a mask we wear to navigate society. At first, it serves a purpose. It helps us blend in, avoid conflict, and win approval. You become the reliable one, the agreeable one, the one who never rocks the boat. You smile when something hurts. You nod when you want to scream. You say yes when every part of you aches to say no. Over time, you start mistaking this social mask for your real self. That's when the danger begins. Because the persona, once a tool for connection, becomes a cage for the soul. What begins as adaptation turns into self-abandonment. You no longer know where the performance ends and your truth begins. You become loved for your mask, but not for your essence. You're praised for your politeness, but your inner voice is silenced. And in that silence, you begin to disappear. The tragedy is that people might still call you kind, easygoing, so nice to be around. But deep inside, you feel unseen, unheard, and unloved for who you really are. You've traded your authenticity for approval, and it's costing you your peace. Carl Jung warned of this illusion. He understood that the persona is not inherently bad. It only becomes dangerous when you believe that's all you are. Because when you lose touch with your soul, with your raw, real self, you begin to live for the comfort of others rather than the truth of your own spirit. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, your spiritual awakening stalls. You can't grow into your true self while you're still shrinking to fit into who they want you to be. You might think being agreeable makes life easier, but it doesn't make life fuller. It makes you invisible. It teaches the world that your needs are flexible, your boundaries optional, your silence a sign of approval. And the more you comply, the more you dissolve. There is no joy in becoming everything for everyone, only exhaustion, resentment, and a quiet sense that something sacred has been lost. This is where spiritual awakening begins, not in rituals or books, but in the choice to stop hiding, to stop filtering yourself for safety, to stop being lovable at the cost of being whole. Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And he was right. It's terrifying to show up without the mask, but it's also the only path to freedom. You begin to reclaim your voice, your desires, your wild truth, and you realize the people who truly love you never needed the mask to begin with. You don't need to shatter your persona in one day. You just need to notice it. And when the moment comes, choose to speak instead of smile. Set a boundary instead of pleasing. Say no with conviction instead of yes with guilt. That is spiritual awakening in motion. That is the soul remembering itself beneath the layers of performance. Because in the end, the mask can never give you what the truth of your being already holds: wholeness, freedom, and love that doesn't require pretending. If this message about the persona struck a chord with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your reflections in the comments below. Let's continue unmasking the truth together. 3. Repression leads to emotional distortion and burnout. Repression doesn't make you virtuous. It makes you vanish. The longer you silence your truth, the more disconnected you feel from yourself. When you constantly suppress your voice, ignore your needs, and collapse your boundaries just to keep the peace, you're not being sensitive or caring. You're building an emotional prison. That's why what starts as compliance soon turns into quiet suffering. You smile while feeling hollow. You agree while your heart screams no. You show up, but it's not really you who's there. It's the version of you that others find easy to love. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted. But when that mask becomes your identity, you lose touch with your soul. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung once said, is to become who you truly are. Yet, how can you do that when every part of you is filtered through what others expect? Repression doesn't just rob you of joy. It distorts your emotions. It turns unspoken truth into anxiety, buried needs into resentment, and unexpressed boundaries into exhaustion. You're not overwhelmed because you feel too much. You're overwhelmed because you're not allowed to feel anything fully, truthfully, and without shame. Take Sarah, a hardworking woman in her 30s. She's the dependable one, the helper, the one who always says yes. Her coworkers admire her. Her friends think she's so low maintenance. But behind closed doors, she's unraveling. She can't sleep. She has migraines. She feels invisible in her own life. She doesn't even know what she wants anymore because she spent years bending herself to meet everyone else's needs. Like many of us, Sarah was taught that being good means being agreeable. But Carl Jung warned us, repression has a cost. What we push down doesn't disappear, it festers. It becomes the shadow that sabotages our health, our joy, and our relationships. And no, this isn't about becoming selfish. This is about becoming real, about reclaiming the space you've given away in silence. When you say no without guilt, when you express a need without apologizing, when you set a boundary and honor it, you're not rejecting others. You're honoring yourself. You're teaching the world how to treat you. Because if you always act like your time, energy, and emotions don't matter, people will believe you. Repression is not kindness. It's emotional neglect, self-inflicted, and socially encouraged. It's time we stop confusing emotional suffocation with spiritual growth. Because the truth is, spiritual wisdom begins when you stop abandoning yourself for the sake of fitting in. The people who truly love you won't demand that you shrink. They will rise to meet your truth. Your burnout is not a flaw. Your exhaustion is not a weakness. They are urgent ones telling you that you've been too silent for too long. Carl Jung didn't teach us to be likable. He taught us to be whole. And wholeness means saying what you mean, needing what you need, and refusing to perform in a role that was never yours to play. You don't owe the world a version of you that's easy to digest. You owe yourself freedom. Not freedom through rebellion, but through honesty. The kind of honesty that liberates your nervous system, heals your resentment, and restores your dignity. Not everyone will understand your truth, but that's not the point. The point is that you finally do. Comment below. I give myself permission to feel. If you're ready to stop repressing and start healing. 4. Real love cannot exist without the real you. People often admire the version of you that never makes waves, the one who always says yes, keeps the peace, and avoids conflict at all costs. But the truth is, that version of you isn't real. It's a carefully constructed mask you've learned to wear, one that keeps you liked but never truly seen. You become agreeable, not because it's your nature, but because somewhere along the way, you were taught that being liked was more important than being whole. And so you shrink. You silence your needs. You nod when you want to speak. You smile when you want to cry. And you say yes when your soul is begging for a no. Carl Jung called this the danger of living through a persona, a false self that exists only for social approval. And when you live like this long enough, something painful happens. You lose touch with your own truth. You forget what you want. You forget what you feel. You confuse acceptance with love and silence with peace. But deep down, there's a quiet voice that whispers, "This isn't who you are." That voice is your soul, and it's begging to be heard. The moment you start listening to that voice, when you begin to set boundaries, speak your truth, and stop apologizing for existing, you'll notice something. People will leave. Not everyone, but the ones who were only there because they benefited from your silence. They weren't in love with you. They were in love with your compliance. The second you stop performing, their affection fades. But don't let that fool you into thinking you're doing something wrong. You're not losing love. You're losing control-based loyalty. And that is not a loss. That is a revelation. Because real love doesn't demand you to be smaller. Real love doesn't wilt in the presence of truth. It grows. It deepens. The ones who stay when you start saying no. The ones who lean in when you show your unfiltered self. Those are your people. They're not attracted to your performance. They're drawn to your presence, to your honesty, to your energy. That is spiritual wisdom. The awareness that the right people don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. As you walk this path of self-reclamation, you'll be tempted to go back, to soften your boundaries, to tone yourself down. But remember this: every time you abandon yourself to make someone else comfortable, you teach your spirit that their approval matters more than your peace. That's not kindness. That's self-betrayal. And no relationship is worth the price of your own voice. You were not put here to perform. You were not born to be everyone's favorite. You were born to be free. And freedom has a cost. It will ask you to let go of the love that was never real, the friendships that depended on your silence, the peace that required your pain. But what you receive in return is priceless. Your wholeness, your truth, yourself. The moment you stop chasing validation, you start attracting alignment. You stop begging for acceptance and start embodying worth. This is the shift. This is the awakening. And yes, it can be lonely, but that loneliness is sacred. It's not an absence, it's a clearing. a space being made for something higher, something honest, something built on truth instead of performance. That's where real love begins, with the real you. If you're ready to be loved for who you truly are, not the role you play, subscribe now for more spiritual wisdom on living authentically and letting the right people find you. 5. Individuation is the cure. Become whole, not liked. Individuation is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. Carl Jung understood that the desire to please everyone is a silent betrayal of the self. The more you try to win approval, the further you drift from your truth. People-pleasing teaches you to exile the most powerful parts of who you are. Your anger, your boundaries, your needs, your passions. It trains you to smile when you want to scream, to agree when you want to say no, to disappear so that others can be comfortable. But every time you abandon yourself for the sake of harmony, you lose the essence of who you are. And no applause is worth that. Jung's solution is individuation, the process of integrating all parts of yourself, including the ones you were taught to hide. This isn't a surface-level self-improvement strategy. It's a deep, spiritual awakening. It means no longer shaping yourself to be palatable to others, and instead, standing in the full truth of who you are. You stop performing, and you start existing. You stop begging to be liked, and you begin to honor your inner authority. Because when you reclaim the parts of you that have been buried, your fire, your voice, your honesty, you become whole. And wholeness is far more powerful than likability. When you choose an individual, you stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Am I being true to myself?" That shift in focus is radical. It challenges everything you were taught about goodness and success. It demands that you walk away from approval and move toward authenticity. You'll begin to realize that saying no doesn't make you selfish, it makes you self-aware. That expressing your anger doesn't make you rude, it makes you honest. That walking away from what no longer serves your soul is not a failure, it's a spiritual victory. This journey is not easy. It requires you to face the shadow of the parts of you you've hidden to survive. But those shadows are not your enemies. They are your teachers. Your rage might be pointing to a boundary that was crossed. Your sadness might be telling you what you value. Your discomfort might be the beginning of your truth. In spiritual wisdom, there is no light without shadow, no awakening without disruption. You grow not by being agreeable, but by being aligned. And as you walk this path, you will lose people. Not everyone will understand your new boundaries, your new silence, your new fire, but let them go. Because every time you say yes to yourself, you say no to the lie that you have to earn love by shrinking. That is the moment you stop people-pleasing, not because you're bitter, but because you're finally whole. That is the beginning of your spiritual awakening. Do you feel ready to stop shrinking for approval and start becoming whole? If this message speaks to your soul, declare it in the comments. I choose wholeness over approval. 6. Guilt is a sign of transformation, not failure. Guilt is not always a sign of wrongdoing. It's often a sign that you're healing. When you stop living to meet other people's expectations, guilt doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It means you're shedding old skin. For so long, you may have measured your worth by how useful, likable, or agreeable you were to others. You said yes when you wanted to say no. You smiled through discomfort. You made yourself smaller so others could feel bigger. But the moment you break that pattern, guilt surfaces not because you've harmed anyone, but because you're no longer betraying yourself to maintain peace. This is the detox phase of self-liberation. And like any detox, it feels messy, unfamiliar. You might find yourself second-guessing boundaries, questioning your choices, or even apologizing for finally protecting your energy. But guilt in this context is just residue emotional withdrawal from the addiction to being liked. Carl Jung believed that true transformation involves confronting the parts of ourselves we've hidden or suppressed to gain approval. He called this individuation, the process of becoming whole. And that path often leads through guilt, because who you're becoming will threaten the roles you've played to survive. Take the story of a woman named Sarah. She was always dependable, always available, always nice. But inside, she was exhausted. One day, she canceled plans to rest, something she'd never done before. Her hands trembled as she typed the message, and immediately after, the guilt set in. But it wasn't because she had done something wrong. It was because, for once, she chose herself. And that choice disrupted the version of her that others had come to expect. When you stop pleasing people, you stop reinforcing the idea that your time is flexible, your needs are negotiable, and your silence is consent. You begin teaching the world how to treat you not through rebellion or aggression, but through alignment. Carl Jung reminded us that the shadow isn't evil. It's simply unacknowledged. People-pleasing is part of the shadow. It's how we learn to stay safe by shrinking ourselves to fit in, by becoming who others needed us to be. But there comes a point when continuing to betray yourself becomes more painful than disappointing others. That point is your turning point. Let guilt rise, but don't let it lead. Let it whisper, but don't let it decide. In time, that noise will fade, replaced by the clarity of self-respect. Choosing yourself won't always feel good, especially at first, but it will always be good for you. And eventually, you'll look back and realize that guilt was never your enemy. It was just proof that you were finally walking away from who you were never meant to be. If this message spoke to your soul, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. And if you're ready to release guilt and step into true freedom, type in the comments, "I give myself permission to break free." 7. You don't lose everyone. You lose the wrong ones. You don't actually lose everyone. You lose the ones who were never meant for the real you. The moment you stop performing, stop shape-shifting to meet someone else's expectations, and begin honoring your truth, something sacred happens. The dynamics that once felt stable start to shake. Some relationships fall away, but don't mistake their exit as a loss. Those connections were built on the version of you that betrayed your own needs to be accepted, loved, or needed. When you stop betraying yourself, you're not breaking the bond, you're breaking the illusion. Most people aren't in love with your soul. They're in love with your sacrifice, your silence, your willingness to say yes when you meant no, your ability to make them feel safe while you quietly abandoned yourself. That version of you served them, but it was never your truth. When you start showing up as your full self, unfiltered, unpolished, whole, the discomfort it causes in others reveals who was truly connected to your essence and who was simply attached to your compliance. People don't get uncomfortable when you become cruel. They get uncomfortable when you become clear, when your no is no longer negotiable, when your boundaries are no longer bendable, when your energy is no longer available for emotional discounts. That's when the accusations begin. You've changed, you're cold, you're not who you used to be. And they're right, you're not. You've outgrown your own self-neglect. You've stopped feeding dynamics that only survived because you kept your needs on mute. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that authenticity comes with a cost, but it also brings clarity. The clearer you become about your worth, the more obvious it becomes who was never meant to stand beside the real you. And as painful as it might feel, this is grace. It's grace in disguise when the wrong people exit, making room for right-aligned connections to enter. Those who are meant for you won't need you to filter yourself. They won't be threatened by your wholeness. They'll rise to meet it. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when you begin to live from that place, not just think about it, not just talk about it, but embody it, your life starts to reorganize itself. Not because you're forcing anything, but because your energy no longer supports the things that were only attached to your performance. In their absence, there's space. Space for love that doesn't shrink you, for friendships that don't compete with your growth, for peace that doesn't cost your voice. You don't need to be more likable. You need to be more you. You don't need to explain your transformation to those who only loved the version of you that made their life easier. Let them misunderstand you. Let them walk away. Because what you're losing isn't real love. It's the illusion that love requires your self-abandonment. And what you're gaining is everything that was waiting on the other side of your truth. If this message spoke to your soul, type in the comments, "I choose truth over approval." The right people will stay. And if you're ready to honor your real self, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a message that helps you grow in truth and love. Thank you for spending this time with us today. Remember, your worth is not defined by how many people approve of you, but by how deeply you honor your own truth. As Carl Jung taught, the path to wholeness begins when you stop performing for acceptance and start living in alignment with your soul. So release the need to please and reclaim the freedom to be unapologetically yourself. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share this video with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more soulful insights. And make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an awakening moment in our upcoming videos. Stay true, stay wise, and keep growing. Do nothing after this, and watch how everything falls into place. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Anne Lamott. In a world that glorifies hustle, we often forget the divine power of stillness. What if the breakthrough you're waiting for doesn't require more effort, but more surrender? In today's video, we'll explore the life-changing truth that doing nothing might just be the most powerful thing you ever do. Watch closely, and you'll discover how letting go allows everything to align effortlessly. Have you ever experienced a moment where things finally worked out the moment you stopped forcing it? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if this resonates with your journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this message with someone who needs it today. Chapter 1. Stop chasing. You're blocking yourself. Society has trained us to believe that chasing is the path to having. Chase the job, chase the partner, chase the life. But chasing is a subtle form of fear. It's an energy that whispers, "I am not enough until I get this." What we often don't realize is that the very act of chasing is blocking what we're trying so hard to receive. The vibration behind the chase is rooted in lack, and the universe doesn't respond to desperation. It mirrors your inner state. Carl Jung said it best, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Behind every frantic goal is usually an unhealed wound. Maybe it's the fear of being alone. Maybe it's the belief that love must be earned. Maybe it's the feeling that if you stop hustling, everything will fall apart. These are the silent scripts running beneath the surface, shaping your desires and driving your actions. In spirituality, the real work isn't about getting more, it's about becoming whole. And to become whole, you must pause and ask, what part of me still feels empty? That question is a mirror. It invites you to stop trying to fix the outside world and start tending to the inner world. The more you chase to avoid the void, the deeper the void becomes. But when you sit with your emptiness, not trying to escape it, but honoring it, you begin to heal. This shift is subtle, but powerful. Instead of praying for more, you begin listening to what your soul needs. Instead of trying to control the timeline, you begin trusting divine timing. Instead of proving your worth, you begin remembering it. Manifestation flows not from effort, but from coherence, when your thoughts, emotions, and energy are aligned with truth, not fear. Every time you try to force something into place, you are affirming that you don't believe it can come naturally. That disbelief is what creates friction, and that friction becomes resistance. But when you let go, when you stop pushing, stop striving, stop begging, the energy softens. Your frequency rises, and the things that once felt far away begin to flow into your life with grace, not struggle. This is what it means to live spiritually, to stop chasing what's already yours, and instead become the version of you who can hold it with peace. When you embody wholeness, you no longer attract from emptiness. You become the magnet, not through effort, but through alignment. You stop asking for the door to open because you realize you are the one holding the key. Comment below. I release the chase. I choose alignment. If you're ready to stop striving from lack and start receiving from wholeness, your healing is the magnet for everything you desire. Chapter 2. The unconscious is always listening. Life is not testing you, it's echoing you. It doesn't respond to your intentions alone. It mirrors the truth of your unconscious energy. Every situation that repeats itself, every delay you face, every closed door, is not the universe working against you, but the universe responding to the vibration you emit without even realizing it. That's the heart of spiritual wisdom. Reality reflects who you are deep beneath the surface, not who you pretend to be on top. That's why affirmations fail when they're spoken from the mouth, but contradicted by the soul. You can say, "I am abundant," 100 times a day, but if deep inside you feel undeserving, that inner feeling overrides every word. The unconscious doesn't respond to what sounds good. It responds to what is true. It listens to the tone of your energy, not the tone of your voice. As long as there is a split between what you want and what you believe, life will reflect the belief, not the desire. You must understand that your unconscious mind is the real director of your reality. It runs the show in silence, influencing your actions, decisions, and even your energy field. You might consciously desire love, success, or peace, but if your unconscious is wired for rejection, failure, or conflict, that's what will repeatedly show up. This is not a punishment. It's a pattern, one that remains until you become spiritually aware enough to break it. Yet instead of facing this internal divide, many people try to cover it with positivity. But positivity is not power when it's used to avoid fear. Smiling over your sadness, forcing gratitude when your heart is in pain, pretending to be okay when your spirit is tired, that's not alignment, that's avoidance. And avoidance breeds distortion. Real transformation begins not when you run from discomfort, but when you sit with it, when you let the fear speak, when you allow the anxiety to rise without numbing it. That's when healing begins, not from doing something, but from being radically honest with what already lives inside of you. The moment you stop trying to fix everything, the process of true realignment begins. Not because you've solved the problem, but because you've stopped resisting your current state. There is a sacred power in stillness. It is in doing nothing that you stop interfering with your own evolution. The spiritual path is not about constantly adjusting and tweaking yourself to become someone new. It's about finally allowing yourself to witness what already is with clarity, with acceptance, with presence. The more you chase alignment, the more you push it away. But when you pause, breathe, and allow your energy to settle, you create the fertile space where transformation can actually take root. This is the paradox. When you do nothing, not out of apathy, but out of surrender, you allow life to reorganize itself around your truest frequency. In that stillness, your unconscious begins to shift. And once your energy shifts, your external world cannot help but follow. If this message has awakened something deep within you, leave a comment of truth. I trust my unconscious is aligning with my highest good. And if this resonates, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a moment of spiritual alignment. Chapter 3. Detachment isn't giving up, it's awakening. Letting go is not defeat. It is the sacred recognition that control was never truly yours to begin with. When you release your grip on outcomes, you're not losing power. You're finally stepping into alignment with a higher spiritual intelligence. The energy of forcing and fixing blocks the very blessings you long for. True flow begins when you stop clenching and start allowing. Surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It's the moment you realize that your worth is not tied to the result, and your peace no longer depends on things going your way. Detachment is often mistaken for indifference, but it's something much more powerful. It is the return of your energy to yourself. Apathy is a numb escape, but spiritual detachment is full presence without obsession. You no longer chase, beg, or plead. Instead, you choose to anchor your awareness in the now. You stop pouring your emotional energy into things you can't control and begin cultivating inner stillness. From that stillness, clarity arises. You begin to see that holding on too tightly is what keeps you stuck, and letting go is what sets things in motion. When your energy says, "I need this to be okay," you are still rooted in lack. The universe listens not to your affirmations, but to the frequency beneath them. Even if your words speak abundance, if your energy is dripping with desperation, you are only reinforcing the absence of what you seek. Manifestation isn't about saying the right things. It's about becoming the vibration of wholeness. When you no longer need, you are finally ready to receive. Detachment breaks the loop of lack and invites in a frequency of fullness. There is immense spiritual power in the statement, even if it never comes, I am still whole. This is not resignation. It is mastery. It is the moment your spirit declares, I am complete. You stop living from the illusion that something outside of you will finally make you enough. And paradoxically, this is when everything begins to shift. You're no longer vibrating from emptiness, but from embodiment. Wholeness is no longer a destination. It's your default setting. The universe cannot help but respond to that level of inner congruence. Life does not respond to striving. It responds to being. When you release the need to control, to force, to manipulate outcomes, you drop into the natural rhythm of existence. Your spiritual energy stops scattering and starts flowing. You begin to embody calm confidence instead of frantic doing. You don't need to chase because you are already aligned. The more you try to grab the moment, the more it slips. But when you settle into your being, the moment comes to you. This is the silent magic of spiritual detachment. Everything begins to fall into place, not because you forced it, but because you stopped needing to. Are you ready to release the need and embrace your true power? If so, comment below, I am whole without it, to affirm your commitment to the path of spiritual detachment and awakening. Chapter 4. Allow the void. After surrender, silence arrives. Not the peaceful kind that brings relief, but the kind that feels like an uncomfortable pause, like life has gone quiet and you've been forgotten. You've done everything right. You let go, released control, stopped chasing. But now, nothing seems to move. This is the void, the in-between. It feels empty, but in truth, it is sacred. Carl Jung called this the creative void, a powerful space of invisible reorganization. It's not that nothing is happening. It's that everything is happening beyond your senses. This is where your ego starts to panic. The mind wants noise, motion, proof. It wants certainty. But the soul thrives in stillness. In this gap between your past and your future, your spirit is being rearranged. Your old patterns, attachments, and identifications are being dissolved, not destroyed, but transformed. The void isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's the space where spiritual growth takes root before it becomes visible. Like the moment right before a seed breaks the soil, it's quiet, but it's not still. Most people fail this part of the journey because they can't handle the silence. They think something's gone wrong, when in truth, something sacred is unfolding. The test isn't whether you can act, but whether you can become. Can you feel like abundance even when it hasn't arrived? Can you act like love even before it's returned? Can you sit in the quiet and know that you are still supported, still held, still guided? This is the magnetic shift. When you stop proving and start embodying. When your stillness becomes your frequency becomes your signal, and the universe responds not to your effort, but to your energy. You don't manifest from desperation. You manifest from coherence, from alignment, from becoming the version of you who already lives the life you desire, even if nothing outside has changed yet. Spirituality asks you to trust the invisible, to know that what you see isn't all that exists, to understand that when life goes silent, It's not the end. It's the divine pause before acceleration. It's the rewiring of your nervous system, the upgrade of your emotional code, the quiet construction of a new reality. Your only job is to allow it, to feel the discomfort but not escape it, to resist the urge to force or fix, and instead surrender even deeper. This is not laziness. This is mastery. You become magnetic not by doing more, but by needing less. And that is when everything begins to fall into place, not because you chased it, but because you became it. If this message resonates with your soul, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful spiritual insights like this. Comment below. I trust the void, my abundance is being built in silence, to affirm your faith in the unseen and step into your magnetic power. Chapter 5. Integrate, don't obsess. Your desires are not random wishes. They are sacred spiritual assignments, tailor-made for your soul's evolution. They appear in your life not to torment you, but to guide you. The issue is never the desire itself, but the attachment you form to it. When longing becomes an obsession, you're no longer in alignment with the flow of life. You've stepped out of trust and into fear. You've moved from receiving to gripping. Attachment is a signal. It shows you where you've begun to outsource your sense of self-worth. When you tell yourself, "I'll feel enough when I have this," you turn a sacred desire into a condition for survival. And that's when your energy begins to repel instead of attract. Obsession is not a sign that you care. It's a symptom of a wound that still whispers, "I am not enough unless." That wound doesn't need more effort. It needs healing. Carl Jung's teaching on individuation reminds us that wholeness comes not from chasing the light, but from integrating both light and shadow. If you ignore your shadow, the insecure, uncertain parts of yourself, they will hijack your desires and twist them into addictions. But when you face them with compassion, your desires become clear again. They return to their original purpose, soul expansion, not self-escape. You don't need to push harder. You need to come home to yourself. The spiritual path is not a hustle. It's a process of remembering that you were never broken to begin with. When you begin to heal your relationship with yourself, you stop needing the world to complete you. And when that need disappears, your frequency shifts. You become coherent. You become magnetic. Not because you're doing more, but because you're aligned. This is the paradox. The moment you no longer need it is the moment you're finally ready to receive it. The universe responds not to begging, not to obsession, but to calm certainty. Not the loud energy of striving, but the quiet power of integration. When your inner world is whole, your outer world begins to reflect it effortlessly. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So the spiritual invitation is not to chase the life you crave, but to embody the version of you who already feels worthy of it. You stop grasping and start radiating. You stop searching and start allowing. And in that space of non-resistance, everything begins to fall into place. This is not magic. This is alignment. This is not luck. This is the natural response of the universe to a soul that remembers its own enoughness. Integration is the portal. Heal, align, and let go. The rest will follow. Have you ever noticed how your deepest desires mirror your inner healing journey? If this message resonates, share your thoughts in the comments. What desire have you been obsessing over, and what is it teaching you? If you're ready to release the grip and integrate instead, comment, I choose inner peace so we can walk this spiritual path together. Chapter 6. The ego wants control. The soul wants peace. The ego is always chasing control, whispering that time is running out, that you're falling behind, that life should be happening faster. It clings to timelines, compares your path to others, and convinces you that if you're not constantly achieving, then you're failing. But that frantic voice inside, that's not your soul. That is ego. And ego thrives on fear, scarcity, and pressure. The soul, on the other hand, wants only peace. It moves in stillness. It trusts divine timing, and it never needs to prove anything. When you find yourself overwhelmed, caught in loops of overthinking, pushing harder, or doubting your worth, pause and ask, is this coming from ego or essence? That question is a gateway to clarity. Ego defines your value by external success. It counts what you have, what you've done, and who's watching. But the spiritual path invites you to root your worth in presence, not performance. Your soul doesn't measure, your soul remembers. It remembers your wholeness. It remembers that you are already enough. To reclaim your peace, you must stop tying your self-worth to outcomes. Let go of needing to be validated by the outside world. The more you chase, the more you signal to the universe that what you desire is missing. And in spiritual truth, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. That means the moment you embody peace, alignment, and sufficiency, life begins to mirror it back. Reality bends not when you push, but when you surrender. As Carl Jung said, what you resist not only persists, but grows in size. Resistance is the energy of the ego. Acceptance is the posture of the soul. This shift is not passive, it is powerful. Choosing peace over pressure is not about giving up. It's about stepping into trust. It's about saying, I no longer force. I align. And from that place, you begin to see that what truly belongs to you cannot be missed. You stop trying to micromanage your destiny and start allowing it to unfold. You stop sending out the energy of desperation and start embodying the energy of certainty. Nothing moves until your energy does. So when you choose stillness over struggle, simplicity over stress, and alignment over action, you are not doing less, you are becoming more. More spiritual, more grounded, more magnetic. And in that sacred pause, everything begins to shift. Because the universe doesn't respond to force, it responds to frequency. And your highest frequency isn't control, it's trust. Peace is not what you get once everything works out. Peace is what makes everything work out. That's the real power. That's the wisdom your soul already knows. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on how to shift from ego control to soul alignment. If this message resonated with you, comment below. I choose peace over pressure. Let's walk this path of inner freedom together. Chapter 7. Shadow work is manifestation. Work. You can't manifest a life of light if you're only willing to love the light within you. The parts of you that you've rejected, your fear, your shame, your anger, aren't mistakes. They are messengers. Jung called this the shadow, the hidden self we push down, hoping no one notices, including ourselves. But true spirituality isn't about pretending to be healed. It's about choosing to meet your pain with presence. When you manifest without acknowledging your shadow, you don't create clarity, you create chaos in disguise. You might attract a relationship, a job, or a situation, but if it's born from trauma, it will reflect that trauma back to you. The universe doesn't respond to your wants. It responds to your frequency. And if your frequency is secretly shaped by fear, that's the blueprint your reality will mirror. Shadow work is not some dark detour away from manifestation. It is the doorway to it. You cannot become whole by rejecting half of yourself. Real manifestation is integration. It's not about wishing harder or scripting more affirmations. It's about accepting all of you. It's about letting your pain speak and realizing that it's not trying to hurt you, it's trying to free you. Every suppressed emotion holds spiritual data. Every wound carries wisdom. And until you're willing to face it, you'll keep trying to manifest from a fractured identity. Wholeness is magnetic. When you stop resisting your emotions and begin to hold space for them, your vibration becomes coherent. Suddenly, your energy field no longer signals, "I'm not enough," or "I have to prove something to deserve this." It begins to signal trust, peace, and grounded power. And that's the signal the universe responds to. Not the desperate trying, but the surrendered allowing. Integration makes your spirit clean. Not clean as in perfect, but clean as in aligned. It says, "I know who I am. I've met my darkness. I've made peace with my past. I no longer chase because I no longer feel separate from what I seek." You don't rise through denial. You rise by becoming radically honest about your emotional landscape and choosing to sit with the discomfort rather than escape it. That's the spiritual path no one glamorizes. But that's where your manifestations shift from illusion into embodiment. When you stop needing your desires to fill a void and instead become the version of yourself who no longer fears the void, everything changes. You stop chasing things to complete you and start attracting experiences that match your inner wholeness. You can say all the right things and still repel the very things you desire if your nervous system is still tuned to scarcity, abandonment, or fear. Because energy speaks louder than words. Healing the shadow is not about fixing yourself. It's about remembering that you were never broken. It's about reclaiming your fragments and realizing they were never meant to be thrown away. They were waiting to be seen. When the shadow is brought to light, your vibration shifts from wounded longing to embodied presence. And that is the most powerful manifestation tool there is. If this message resonates with you, comment, "I agree," to affirm your commitment to healing through integration. If you see it differently, share your thoughts with "I don't think so." Your voice matters in this spiritual journey. Chapter 8. Don't block your own destiny. The greatest block to your destiny isn't the universe, your past, or anyone outside of you. It's you. Self-sabotage is subtle and often invisible. It's not loud, and it rarely looks like destruction. It sounds like self-doubt. It feels like hesitation. It hides behind perfectionism, procrastination, and the constant pressure to do more. It whispers, "I'm not ready," or worse, "I don't deserve this." That's not divine timing holding you back. That's your own energy contradicting your desires. You say you want it, but deep inside, you're signaling the opposite. You chase success, not because you feel called, but because you feel empty. You run toward goals, hoping they'll save you from yourself. You keep moving forward, hoping something outside of you will finally make you feel whole. But here's the spiritual truth. Anything you pursue to escape yourself becomes another form of self-abandonment. Success that is built on avoidance eventually collapses. When your actions are rooted in fear, the outcome will reflect fear. You attract what your soul believes is safe, not what your ego demands. Change isn't born from more effort. You can hustle for years and never change a thing internally. Real transformation begins the moment you stop trying to achieve your way out of pain and instead look within to alchemize it. Your destiny doesn't respond to your willpower. It responds to your alignment. The identity you hold, the silent story you repeat, is the gatekeeper of your manifestation. Until you shift who you believe you are, nothing outside of you will shift either. You are not chasing success. You're becoming the man who no longer needs to chase. When your internal identity matches the life you say you want, the universe doesn't have to be convinced. It simply mirrors. You stop begging life to prove your worth. You stop scripting and strategizing, hoping to manipulate an outcome. Instead, you settle into truth, the spiritual awareness that you are always enough, always worthy, always chosen. From that place, manifestation becomes a byproduct of who you are, not a reward for what you've done. The moment your energy stops resisting what's meant for you, everything begins to fall into place, not because you forced it, but because you finally stop blocking it. You begin to attract not from need, but from wholeness. You stop searching for signs and start being the sign. Destiny doesn't unfold through effort. It unfolds through surrender, through presence, through remembering that the door was never locked. You just needed to stop standing in your own way. That's the spiritual key. Don't become more. Become aligned. If you're still here and this message resonates with you, comment below. I'm ready to align with my true self. Your words help us grow this community and bring more clarity to those on the path of purpose. Thank you for watching this message from Spiritual Wisdom. Sometimes, the most powerful action is no action at all. Just presence, surrender, and trust. Let life unfold without resistance, and you may be surprised at how effortlessly things begin to align. If this message spoke to your soul, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming insights on living a spiritually aligned life. Stay still, stay present, and let it all fall into place.